All right, hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we're joined by Jeremy Smith. Jeremy is a freelancer, a conference organizer, a podcaster, and a very long-time Rails developer. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks, Errol. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you're the sort of guest that I think our listeners have probably wanted to listen to for a long time. Obviously been working in Rails for a long time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started in that?
Yeah. So I've been a developer for a long time since, I got into building websites in my teens and then realized that hobby could be a job. That was not my original goal, but turned out you can make some money this way. And so first getting into programming, I was building apps with ASP Classic, if you remember that, from back in the day. Also using FileMaker. The FileMaker Pro had this a way that you could build web applications with it. And maybe in 2008 or 9, I was working for a nonprofit and realized that I needed something better than what I was doing. I also needed a way to just level up on in my programming skills, and looking for a community where I could do that. And it was working in-house, but solo dev in-house for a nonprofit. And at that time I was thinking about, okay, there's Ruby and Rails, there's Django and Python, and then there's PHP and this thing called CodeIgniter. And so I was trying to decide between those three and kind of weighing the pros and cons of each, the community, features, all the different, signs of activity in life to them. And I felt kind of guilty because Ruby and Rails seem like the coolest one, but that's what I ended up picking. I don't feel guilty anymore. I'm very happy I made that choice. Not that CodeIgniter's gone away. Not that Django would have been a bad option, but I'm very happy to be in Rails. And so since 2009, I've been doing most or all of my development work in Ruby and Rails. And for me, I always wanted to build things on the web. The web is kind of what I grew up on, on in terms of a platform. And so building web applications has been always very close to my heart. Yeah. And having a way to do that and then level up as a programmer in a great community where I could really learn, for me, it was kind of I needed to learn I learned not the fundamentals first, but learned by building, and then walked back into theory and fundamentals from that. And that's what I've discovered is that's the kind of person I am. I don't work very well by starting with theory and then once you know all the fundamentals, then you can go build something. I want to build stuff first, and then that's how that works. That's why it works that way. Rails worked out really well for me that way. So I'm very thankful for that.
I guess one of the advantages with Rails is that it's designed. Excuse me. It's designed so that those fundamentals are baked into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
hard. There's a bunch of stuff that you don't have to understand to actually get things done. And now, fast forward many, many years, as an experienced developer, that seems kind of scary when you talk to somebody that's they're vibe coding stuff, or they're, building without understanding what this does. And there is a sense that that's true, when you're talking about levels of risk and the kinds of applications you work on. But if someone had gate kept me on that, I wouldn't have made it. And so it was really important for me to be able to build things, even if it was things that weren't mission critical, or things that didn't have, high usage, high levels of users or whatever, where I could learn through trial and error, learn through my own production incidents, having to solve those things. And then why did that happen? Oh, okay. Now I understand this. And for me, that was super effective, and really grateful for that. And kind of wish that more people had the opportunity to, I think programming and even the Rails community would be a better place if a lot of programmers had the opportunity to build apps themselves and run them in production themselves. There's so many things you learn by being on a project long term and by owning production, owning incidents, owning reliability, all those kinds of things, the impact on users. And so many years working in a nonprofit and being the solo, dev there, got to experience all of that and really kind of like earn my stripes, I guess, in that context. Really helped me. And then was able to turn that was my last full-time job into my first contract. And then that kicked off what's now been like 13 years of freelancing.
And you work solely by yourself?
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm usually working with small organizations with a Rails app. They might be, it would be like, like a technical person has built a SaaS product and it's found revenue, and they might be a programmer who's been building the code base themselves, and now they need to transition more into sales and marketing. And they need somebody else to come in and do some heavy lifting on back-end development, or, keep feature development moving along, or whatever.
Or upgrades.
Or it could be like a small team that's like, there's like four people in this company, and the CTO built the Rails app 10 years ago. And now it's like, they're doing well, and the CTO is like still heavily involved, but they need somebody else to come in, and they've tried to, decided if, are they going to hire like a junior dev to come in and work with the CTO, or do they want to hire, someone like me that works fractionally, but is like senior. And so it's usually those kind of scenarios where they've got revenue to, they want to put more money into development beyond who they have in-house, but may not be at a place where they need full-timers. And that's because once you get to that point, it doesn't make sense to kind of work with me. So I look for those kind of companies because it works for both of us. Because I like to have long-term relationships with people. I enjoy getting to know a company, getting to know a person that I'm working with, and a code base, learning like all, if it's been around for a while, like learning its warts, learning what it needs. And a lot of times that doesn't happen like in the first month. It's like, I'm not the kind of person that can just drop into a code base and immediately say, oh, I know everything that needs to happen in this and I can fix it all in 1 month. I don't think that's, in my experience, it's not very realistic.
It's not fair on the client either.
It isn't. No, and a lot of times it's a trust building game. So even if I did have all of the answers, I would be starting with no trust. So they trust you enough, client trusts you enough to hire you, but that doesn't mean they're handing over often their baby, their code base, their revenue stream to you.
So, it's easy to forget that application for them is everything. Yeah.
That's another thing that really helped, like for me, like being able to go from being in-house and starting a Rails app that I worked on for almost a decade, that really was tied very tightly to my identity. And then hiring developers to come and work with me on that project, and realizing how hard it was for me to let go of some things, or how many things felt very personal because I had spent so much of my own time on this thing. And I think that translates into me having a lot of empathy for my clients who are often in the same place. Like this feels very personal to them. It is personal. Work is personal. And for many people that have been working in Rails for a long time or building a SaaS slowly over over many years, this is a big part of who they are. It's a lot of where they've spent their time and energy and thought, and to come in and you just want to come in and be careful and sensitive to the choices they've made, and to have a respect for what they've accomplished, and for what you don't know yet. And so
it's an interesting point, Jerry, because when you do that, there's compromises I think you have to make sometimes. And I'll give you an example. Last company I worked with, Reinteractive, we specialized in Rails, and very much promoted ourselves as only a Rails house, like did nothing else. But you can't really say that, because you would then bring in clients who had a fantastic monolith, a great Rails, but then you start to dig into it and you find, oh, they've got a whole React front end.
Yeah.
And so you have to have the React developer to be able to look after that client. And that's a compromise, because it's not how you want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, I think these kind of relationships, I don't know. You see, I don't know. Sometimes you see these people that run businesses that are like, if you come to me, you're getting it my way.
Yeah.
I will be the authority. Like, it's my way or the highway. This is it. And that may work in some circumstances. I don't think it makes sense. It wouldn't make sense for the clients I work with. It wouldn't make sense to me in the way I want to work with people. I want to come in and form fit to the needs that are present as they are, rather than requiring a client to fit themselves to the way I want to deliver. I mean, there is one thing there is, like, for me, it's, I want to do long-term fractional contracts. That's the one thing that's been my thing. That if that doesn't work for you in Rails, if that doesn't work for you, I'm probably not a good fit. But otherwise, like, if you need me to integrate, if you want to use whatever, like ticket tracking system you want to use, or like whatever logging platform you're on, or you've made particular architecture choices that might not be my favorite, or you've used a set of gems that aren't the ones I like. There's so many things, even things like standard RB versus Rubocop. Like, I may be on 2 or 3 different projects, and they have completely different, static analysis tools with different rule sets.
What test suite they use.
Yeah, totally. Minitest, RSpec. Yeah, I've done it all.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to come in and not disrupt a bunch of things, especially initially, and kind of form fit myself to where they are operationally, with the sort of quality bar that they've set, caring about the concerns they care about that they hired me for initially. Although what I've come to realize is that often people hire you around a thing that they finally got some movement around one specific reason. Like, okay, we needed this person now. Okay, now we hired. And so they're feeling some immediate felt needs. That often means there's plenty of other needs behind that. So a lot of times it's, here's what we need right out of the gate. But then behind that is, like, you realize there are tons of other things. There's so much to do often. And it's not always just programming. It's also things like building reliability in their systems, building better processes, building better ways of communicating and documenting. And so many of those things are, like, about the engine of software development, not about the piece of software itself.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're moving more into a management or even a fractional CTO role as part of the engagement.
I mean, I've never billed myself as a fractional CTO. Maybe someday I will. But I think I end up wearing a lot of hats and kind of thinking, I'm trying to, like, take responsibility that has been given to me, but then think a little bit further, just beyond the edges of the bounds of what I've been given, to say, like, what else would help? What else could benefit this? What if I was in the CTO's role, what would I want to hear from me? That maybe they wouldn't know to ask for? What would level up this organization and leave them better in 5 years? That's the kind of stuff I care about. Like, I love building stuff, but I also care about leaving each client, better than I found them, leaving them, like, hopefully helping them level up, not just in terms of features, which is often, like, the base level, what people are thinking about. Oh, it's just add more features, or reduce our, the noise in Honey Badger, or all of our exceptions, or whatever. But there are other things you can do to improve the ability to ship quality software. And it's like this whole system, and being able to find the right times and places when you've earned trust to insert those ideas or those concepts, or, like, okay, maybe now is a good time to raise this thing, and figure out how to do that in a way that hopefully they hear as not as complaint or as criticism, but as, like, I care about this organization. I care about where it's going, and I care about, what you're doing, and I want it to get better, whether I'm here or not.
even when you're talking about at the level of features, you have a CEO who might say, this is the feature that I want. And a good developer will push back and say, why do you want that?
Yeah.
Is this actually required?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely spent a lot of time saying why, asking why.
Yeah.
Both as an employee and as a contractor. And I think I've learned that you need some finesse with how you pose the question too. Probably earlier in my career, I would just ask the flat why. You sort of demand the why, like you're going to die on my sword. You better give me an answer. And that creates an oppositional attitude with previously with bosses, I think. And I think as I've gotten older and hopefully a little wiser, realize like that doesn't go well. And it's not serving people well when they are put in the defensive position around why. But I am trying to find out why. I'm trying to be a detective to figure out why. Carefully and with respect to understand if there's something else here that could serve better.
Yeah,
something else
that's really the point, isn't it? It's not a matter of saying, I don't like this or I don't think this is a good idea, but a matter of saying...
sometimes it is, I don't like this. But I have immediate reactions, but I've learned to temper them and, kind of hold those internal.
Yeah, and then providing an opportunity to say, maybe this would work better.
Yeah.
Here's an alternative for you that, have you considered?
Right.
That's
I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. I don't think that I do that perfectly all the time, but that's kind of my goal with clients is to earn their trust, earn their respect, and to respect them and not just serve the needs that are explicitly stated, but look for the needs that they may not even realize, but do that in a way that is careful and considerate to who they are, where they are, and particularly since many of these applications are like very personal to them.
Do you find yourself having to make decisions that are, I don't want to say outside your wheelhouse because I don't really know, but things like engineering decisions or infrastructure decisions or UX decisions or things like that? Or maybe you are expert in those enough to be able to offer opinion.
I'm certainly often living with different priorities than I would set myself. For example, maybe I work with someone where I see the level of instability in production as a significant problem, and they may not feel it quite the way I do. And some people might feel like that's unlivable. They couldn't, imagine. Depending on the client and who their customers are and what level of concerns they have, they might have varying degrees of how they sort of manage that. Other aspects could be things like design or UX, things that I would say like, boy, this the design is not serving customers here, and this might be outside of scope of what I've been asked to do, where I might say like, no, this should be the priority. And so I'm often working within the priorities of what have been set and then figuring out the ways to raise the things that I think I can be most effective at. But I'm often working within the constraints that might not be the constraints I would set for myself. In terms of technical choices, it's not too common. But I've had some maybe in the recently, like a few times where I tried to make an architectural pitch and for something I thought was kind of a slam dunk or very solid, and then got no on that and had to find another path through that. And that can be challenging. but at the end of the day, the customer is the boss, and I'm gonna find a way to kind of meet. What it is, like the way I think about it in my head is every client, every engagement, I'm coming in to learn a different game, the rules of a different game, and I'm not the one that sets the game rules. I'm just a player, and so I'm trying to figure out what are the rules of the game, and am I playing their game or not? And there's a lot of tension if I'm trying to play a different game than what they're playing, and it makes us align a lot better once I figure out what things they care about, what things are, this is how you win at this game, and then play to win, to match them in the game they're playing. Sometimes that means prioritizing things that I might not prioritize, but that is their decision to make, not mine. If I can't, I might have an opportunity to convince them of something else, but ultimately, like, they're the ones taking the risk, hiring me, making decisions. They're the one that has to live with the long-term repercussions of whatever is done. My typical engagement's anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. But I'm working with people who've been in the company for 10 years and might be, another 10 years. So this is, they're going to experience the long-term reportions of whatever happens.
And often a founder or an owner or,
Yeah. I mean, if they make, let's say they want to make what I consider a bad technical choice, and I lose the argument, long-term, when they if they want to go sell, to get it acquired and then it's assessed, they have to live with, maybe the assessment coming back saying like, why did they, build this way? This is really poorly architected, or like really sketchy area of the code base or something like that. They have to live with that when it goes time to sell. Then I don't, I'm probably off that project many years by then. So I want to play by their rules.
It's a very good point, because you don't know necessarily what that client, what their long-term goals might be. And you might have to discover that. Like, is it to be acquired? Are they just trying to keep their one big client happy? Are they trying to answer to a board? Like, what is their motivation?
Yeah. And there's so many different ones, and I'm not always privy to all of those things, and I don't need to be. So the best I can do is make the pitches I can, and then disagree and commit, I guess, like commit to playing the game by the rules that they've set. And then we see we see like in a year or two how those decisions played out. But it's their call to make, and they'll they'll feel the consequences more severely than I will, if things are maybe not what, like if it turns out the way I might have thought, like, oh, I wouldn't do this, but we can do it. But that's for them. And everyone's on a learning journey, and we all have different levels of responsibility, and theirs is more significant than mine. So I'm going to defer in those cases.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about Hotwire. Perhaps maybe for listeners who might not know exactly what Hotwire is, can you go into a little bit of an explanation there and how that's your niche?
Yeah. So Hotwire is sort of it's not really part of Rails, but it's the 37 signals sort of answer to the large, rich front end frameworks like React. And the focus is more on like sprinkles of JavaScript and server-side rendering as sort of the primary vehicles for delivering, like something similar to rich front ends. It's not going to be the same, but I think it's a sort of a simple set of tools that make sense particularly for the mindset of if you like Rails and because you can build a lot with small teams or with a team of one, then Hotwire also kind of fits that, where the surface area of it is small enough and it's manageable for one developer to do front and back, and kind of be full stack. without having to learn this entire other ecosystem, which I think often happens with React. Having said that, I've not worked professionally with React. Somehow I managed to work in Rails and actually do a lot of design work and UI work for many years, but like stuck to server-side rendering and the early answers to that with Rails long enough to like survive to the Hotwire days. So I had another place to go. So I can't really speak to that side very much. This is just kind of where I've been. This is like where I grew up, and I'm happy to kind of be here.
It's a funny thing, Jeremy, because when I first started developing, it was these small little pieces of JavaScript that you would use inside your code, and they would do the functions that you needed them to do, and that worked really well. I enjoyed that. And then it became like these large JS or jQuery sheets that you would write that would do everything. And then it developed into, well, I started learning Angular first and then React. And it annoyed me because it became like it just grew into this enormous thing. And I was still just trying to do this small thing. Like I didn't need all of that, you know. I just needed some, you know. Anyway, I feel like for me, Hotwire is full circle on that. Yeah.
I think there are probably plenty of use cases where React is still the right choice. It just turns out that that's not often the circumstance that I'm in with my customers. They typically don't need that. Maybe because it's often B2B. Maybe it's the stage of sort of the maturity level of the organization and the application. I can imagine once you get to a certain maturity level or growth, like a scale, that it could make sense, or even team size, because I think that also is a huge factor. Is like if you end up getting to a size where you need a front end team, it makes sense for that to optimize for the tooling that a front end team is going to have, or the hiring that a front end specific team will be, which is coming from this other world, and then finding a way to bridge the gap with API layer and a way of communicating between the two or something. So I think there's so many other factors that I would never say like it doesn't make sense to use React. I just
so there is a boundary that you would consider, like scaling would be.
I suspect, just like looking at organizations that have made those choices, even people have been up in arms about GitHub, like, oh, ever since they switched to React, look at how terrible the UI is, and like how it's been so bad, like all this stuff. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but I can imagine once you get to a scale like that, like you have a team size, that large, and a surface area of UI that's that significant, that's that large, it probably makes sense to make choices that are more in line with what's ubiquitous, in terms of hiring and, I mean, even to this day, like people are like, oh, I love to use Hotwire, but there's like, I can't find all the built-in React. Like I could get all these off-the-shelf React components. Well, you're not going to get them in Hotwire. They don't exist. Or there's like some small libraries. They're trying, but it's like you're going to roll your own. You're going to find a vanilla JavaScript package, and then you're going to wrap it in your own stimulus controller, and there you go. But you have to do that for every single one that you have. You're not going to get like some giant ecosystem that you just drop in place.
Yeah, right. I think as a developer that sort of is appealing, though. It's not a bad thing.
It's appealing to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It does bring up a question though of so many developers now are using prompts to write their code, which is fine. But if you want to and you intend to use Hotwire, you have to specifically ask for it, I think.
Yeah, I guess what have I done? I haven't run into a problem where, I guess because I'm always using projects that already have it in place. If it is in place. And then I have some like stuff in, Cloud MD for how I like to do Hotwire. Actually recently what I did was, I've had a few different projects. I'd heard people talk about like, oh, it doesn't know how to do Hotwire because there's not enough blog posts and like content like to like out there for LLMs to like build off of, so they know the patterns to use. And so I heard people talking a lot about that. Also, because I do Hotwire a lot, I have my own opinions about how I like Hotwire to be done. And so I recently did a Claude session where I had it just pointed at a bunch of code bases that I've done Hotwire in and said, like, go through and find all the stuff I've done, all my commits around Hotwire, stimulus and turbo, all the stuff that I do, and come up with just document all my patterns. Like what are the things that I do, like the way I do that. And then it came out with a really nice document that was like all the stuff that I do. And reading through that, you're just like, okay, yes, exactly. This is what I want. All right, perfect. And so I feel like that stuff probably helps some. But I haven't had terrible trouble with, I don't know that I've written a line of code so far this year by hand, but I'm very close, sort of hand in hand with Claude, reviewing
so you're
everything.
Very precise about what you're requesting and what you're asking for, and then
we're talking a lot. We're talking a lot, and if I'm not happy with the shape of things, like we're changing it. So, I keep thinking of like back in the day, like if you were plowing a field with a horse. I feel like me and Claude, it's like that's how it feels. And maybe it's better than me hoeing a field by hand or something. I don't know. Maybe can't decide.
No, I think it is because I don't know if you've tried to write a large application by hand starting from scratch. Like that, there is incredible benefit to that, but you do have to be hand in hand. There's no doubt about that. I wrote an application recently that because when you're trying to discover the tools and understand them. So I went, okay, I'm going to rewrite a Notion type app in Rails. And I discovered all of these things as I was doing that. There are some very specific things you have to ask for. If you want to use Hotwire, you have to be very precise about what you ask for and how that looks then when it comes out. Like there is work to be done there. You're right, the examples are not abundant, and so the tooling isn't going to know it quite as well, but you can still guide it to that result you want.
Yeah.
And come up with something that looks great and works fantastically. And so much faster. Like I don't know if I'd built that using a React front end, what the speed would be, but I feel like it works really well.
That's cool. Yeah.
What do you say to I don't know if you engage much with new developers, like people who are trying to forge a career where they haven't before.
Sometimes.
Do you offer advice along these lines?
I have really struggled to know what to say in the last year or so, in particular. I don't know. I guess maybe what you're asking is how to break into roles, and that sort of thing. Yeah. That's been after putting on Blue Ridge Ruby, the conference I put on back in May. One of the people that came, a scholar to the conference, was trying to break into tech, and just reached out to say, do you have any advice? I really enjoyed this, hadn't experienced the Ruby community. I really love it. How could I get a job in Ruby? And I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell you right now. I don't know what to tell anybody trying to get into software right now. But particularly Ruby, if you just look at job boards, there are no junior jobs. I've seen one maybe in the past year. That sucks. I don't have an answer to that. And I think there are things people say, oh, we just need to prioritize. I agree, that would be great, but I don't know what to tell someone right now without the world changing, without tons of, companies changing or something like that, priority shifting. I don't know what to tell somebody that's how do I get a job in the next 6 months? Could I? So I don't know. The best answer, and I think that's what the answer I gave this person that reached out to me was, I don't know that Ruby would be the best place. If you're just trying to land a first tech job, I probably would go broader than that, which sucks because I wish I could say, in terms of community, in terms of what I've gotten out of my career, I couldn't imagine myself somewhere else. And I credit so much to me, it matters not just the tools that you're using, but the people you're in a community of practice with. And
Yeah.
that is like why I stay here. So I want to be in a community of practice with other people. And that really matters a lot to me. Maybe it doesn't matter to everybody. So maybe but for me, it does. So there's that. I guess the other thing I mentioned to him was like, I think that probably, everyone says you still need to know fundamentals. But I think if I was trying to land a job, the thing you need to do is get noticed and show that you can ship things. To me, that means building, with it, agentic processes, building with AI to like build whatever kind of, products or things that you can think of that will stand out, show that you can ship, show that you can take responsibility for product decisions. And that probably matters more than anything else right now. I think that probably always helped people stand out, but now it's even harder. And so that's a terrible answer for people that have to work a full-time job just to make ends meet, but like maybe their pay's not great while they're trying to get into tech. It's not a great answer for people that are trying to, switch from another career path, or someone that just graduated, from college, or there's so many, like the only people that can do that is people that have abundant spare time, like to be in the right place in life, to have abundant spare time and energy just to like throw at this, plus, a nice subscription to Claude or whatever, or OpenAI.
Well, that's right. Yes. You have to be able to spend the tokens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hate that. But that's the best I know of right now. I don't know what else to say to people.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Here's another tough question, and it's probably along the same lines. What is the future of documentation? Let me rephrase that maybe.
Yeah.
So obviously the LLMs need documentation in order to be able to produce code, and they have ingested a lot of that, and that's why we have good code. However, as people are not reading that documentation, we perhaps are not getting the senior developers who used to write it quite as enthusiastic about continuing to write it. I mean, you brought up the example of Hotwire, like there isn't massive documentation on it, and so it's used less. So would more documentation be of benefit there, even though real people aren't going to read that?
It's interesting because I've been thinking about this question of people have said Hotwire doesn't have enough documentation. And I've been trying to figure out what that means. Because in terms of official documentation, I started thinking that. And then the more I interrogated it, the more I'm thinking like, what is missing? And I haven't been able to figure out what people mean by that. What I suspect is, this is my current theory. I could be wrong about this. With Rails, like if you started back in the aughts on Rails and you kind of grew up with it, there was an explosion of blogs. It wasn't just the official docs. It wasn't just the guides and the API docs, right? Yeah. It's an explosion of blogs as everyone discovered how to use, the set of tools.
And here's this edge case, and here's how I solve this problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I've documented, I think, close to a dozen, if not more than that, blog posts about the dangers of callbacks in Active Record. And it's funny because that's not in the guides. It's not something that you're not going to see probably too many. Maybe there's a warning. I don't know if there could be a warning. It's a very common pattern in sort of vanilla Rails to use callbacks extensively. But then yet there's like this whole world of discovery of sharp knives with plenty of blog posts about that that came out of that has informed like long-term Rails people about how they would how and when they would use callbacks. That is documentation in a way, but it's also the maturity of a framework and the maturity of the people in using the framework to discover things. Another example that came to me recently was like, like for years we've had background jobs, and then Sidekick becomes the sort of the de facto, and Sidekick ships with certain types of queue. I can't remember the original default queues that came out, but a lot of times you would see in Rails apps, like there's the default queue and then there's the email queue. And, recently, and maybe in the past few years, it's become more clear to say, like, we actually want latency based queues. You got your 5-second queue, your 1 minute queue, or whatever. They're after like your latency targets, and that's now understood as sort of the industry best practice or something that emerged over time. It emerged. And now there's quite a bit of, there's videos about it, there's blog posts about it. It's because like a lot of people like grew up with these tools, figured out like what was difficult. And then these sort of best practices and patterns emerged out of a set of fundamental tools that you could use a bunch of different ways. So I think this is a long way of saying, I think when people say we don't have enough documentation, it's, we haven't been using these tools as a community long enough to get to the maturity phase where you would have all these best practices that fall out of that, because it's not just about like the guides and the API docs. Yes, we get that, but then it's like, well, how do you use it right? How do you could still like foot gun yourself a bunch of different ways with these tools. Yeah. And like, what are these trade-offs, and what are the things that no one would suggest doing? And what are the things that you're like, well, maybe in this situation you could do that. In this situation, I would not. And where are all the blog posts about that? Well, that takes time. That takes a bunch of people using it, a lot of time, a lot of people investing in writing about their practices and sharing those things. And so with Hotwire in particular, I would say 5 years may not be enough time to have that much. We've got the Better Stimulus website is fantastic. Julian Rubish's site has a bunch of really good resources, particularly about stimulus. There are quite a few other resources out there that are quite good. It just may not be enough, or it's not as large of a resource as what you'd have with Rails, because Rails has been around for 20 years. So it's like a different story at this point. So I think that's partly, that's my theory on what people mean when they say that.
Yeah, I like that viewpoint. It makes sense to me, because you're absolutely right. In particular with those blog posts, like I think that is a key thing, because it's the larger community engaging in solving problems and presenting their solutions.
Yeah. And it's all the in practice stuff that people end up sharing. And maybe the question you're asking is, will people keep doing that? Will people keep sharing that stuff in the future? I don't know about you, but I still read that stuff. So I really like it. There's a really great series right now by Brandon. Oh my gosh,
Weaver?
I'm blanking. Brandon Weaver, thank you. Yeah, Brandon Weaver. He's been doing this Sharp Knives series on Rails stuff. It's fantastic. His writing is so good.
He is so good.
I love it. So I'm going to keep reading stuff like that if he keeps writing it. So I hope people are still around. To write those things.
And I guess there's also like podcasts, more technical podcasts are a way of doing that as well.
Yeah.
Like even the fact that we're discussing this today is probably important.
Yeah. I guess part of it may be like how many of us are still that close to the code base in the future? And I don't know. I guess I hope so, but I don't know. So I'm kind of holding that somewhat loosely, but if we are, then I think then it still matters how we write things. And then it still matters that we are leveling up and finding the best ways to write things, rather than just letting agents sort of evolve code bases. I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So, but if we're still writing code and reading code, I think people are going to want to still
Jeremy, my recommendation is this, and it has been for a while now, is by all means let the LLM write the code, but you have to read it. You have to understand what's being written. Maybe not
that's kind of where
line.
I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least for client work. I don't mind trying a pet project that doesn't have any users, or I'm the only user, or no one's gonna lose money if I accidentally drop the database, if Claude drops the database. But I'm not gonna do that for client work, not at this point. Unless this goes back to what I was saying before, unless my client says, no, we want it to go this way. And then I would say,
sure.
That's the game you're playing. So I will play the rules by your game.
And here's the risk involved with that.
Yes. As long as you know the risks and you like the risks and you think you can win that game, I'm not going to, I'll get on board with that, and we'll see. I don't have to be combative about that. I don't have to make things my way in that situation. But then I'll have a learning experience, because then I'll have worked on a project where we did that, and then hopefully saw what those outcomes were. Because a lot of what I love about building is all the finding out. I think any kind of craft you partake in the world is a way of exploring the world and gaining knowledge. And so that's what I love about every project is you learn about an industry that you didn't know about, and you learn whatever practices we're following here. What is the second and third order effects from what we're doing? And you find those things out down the road. And that's really interesting. So I feel like I'm getting smarter, when I stay on these projects and see where things go. And that's still really interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think working with the different clients that I've worked with over the years and finding out what they're doing and how that product is being used is of such immense interest to me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, you really get into it. And some of the clients I worked with a client who had an application that calculated resource usage for farmers across the US. And it's just so interesting. And the people who run that application are just it's so important to them, and obviously to the farmers who use it. Yeah. It's just so important. Another client I worked with had an application that recorded, a boring application. It's basically a database, records readings, but of hurricanes. So they literally have the server on an aircraft that flies into the hurricanes.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, so that's interesting. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Had to figure out how do you deploy to an aircraft.
That's so interesting. I love that.
I'm just talking about two of them. There's hundreds over the years.
I bet. Yeah, that's really fun.
Yeah. And another thing that I know you enjoy is conferences and speaking at sessions. Yeah, because that is another way that we disseminate our knowledge and our wisdom.
Yeah, when I was younger, growing up, getting into web development felt like a very solitary thing I was doing. No one I knew in the middle of Ohio, in corn country, surrounded by farms, no one I knew was on the internet. I was the only one using my dad's dial-up for the university he was getting his PhD from. And I'm learning, I'm just so fascinated by the web and kind of exploring a larger world than I could access on my own as a teenager. It still felt very solitary and individual. And I carried that forward off really into my career, where I like working alone. I like doing things myself, figuring things out on my own. A lot of my career has been shaped that way. But I kind of hit a point where there's a big missing component of that, which was other people. And I certainly have clients or bosses or whatever. And, there's sort of vague abstract notions of users somewhere using your service or whatever. But I found I was really missing people and missing this sense of not just reading the blog posts as a lurker, but participating in the community and feeling like I belonged. And for a long time, it was I was trying to figure out where I could find that. I wasn't even necessarily just looking in the Ruby and Rails community for that. I was looking in other, maybe I need to go to a co-working space and find a group of people that are, do the same kind of work and that I can get involved with or whatever. For whatever reason, conferences became a big place for me to do that. And I don't know why. It was basically in like 2021 that things, or maybe it's 2022, things started to click and fall in place for me around that, like where it actually felt like I was making friends instead of going to a conference, seeing the talks, and then going home and not feeling like I met anybody. Yeah. And it's not entirely true. That's a little bit, of an overstatement, but that's how it felt for a few years. But then like things really shifted at a certain point, and I also made a conscious decision to focus on conferences and connecting to particularly the Ruby and Rails community, because after being in it for that long, I still didn't feel like I belonged, but it wasn't for lack of time or even trying. But I finally decided, like, okay, this is where I want to be. I love this. I belong here. And then it started to, I wish I could put my finger on it, because I talked to so many people at conferences that maybe almost didn't come or almost didn't feel like they fit, or maybe they didn't feel like they fit when they came. And I hate that so much because I know what that felt like. Yeah. And part of me wanted to do a conference actually was that, like, how can I help other people have that event that pulls them in, that makes them feel like they're exactly where they're meant to be. They do belong here. They are a Rubyist, like the work they're doing is interesting, and they should come and share, the gift of who they are in this place. That really matters to me. And I feel like I was able to find that back in 2021 and or I guess 2022, and then wanted to turn around and kind of do the same thing, and that's been super rewarding for me to feel that finally, and to feel like I belong, and that some of my best friends are conference friends, are other Rubyists.
Yeah, these people you see at different conferences through the year. Yeah, I agree completely. I think there's nothing like it. I will, however, say that for anyone listening, Ruby conferences are something special, or Rails conferences are something special. That community is unique. And there's other conferences you can go to that aren't, they're close but not quite the same. I've experienced that.
Yeah, going to other tech conferences doesn't quite do it for me in the same way. I don't know why that is. I try, but there's something special.
There is another aspect that I feel, and this is not true for everybody, but I've the very first Ruby conference in Australia that I went as a spectator. Went to the sessions. It didn't really engage as much. I was a spectator, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy it as much. And I decided that if I was to go to another conference, I had to participate. I had to be part of it. And there's lots of different ways to do that. You can apply to be a session speaker, or you can help to be an organizer, or you can help to promote it, or you can be a sponsor, or, there's lots of ways. You can sit at the front desk and register people as they arrive. There's lots of ways to help. And that makes it so much more enjoyable for me.
Yeah. It helps to... It's a huge hack to realize, like, if I just give myself a job, then I can feel like I belong here. Yeah. maybe that's why I organize conferences. Like, just give yourself a job. Once you have the job, then there's a reason why you showed up, and it's less awkward. And if you volunteer, same thing. Like, if you decide to run the registration table, you are going to meet everyone at the conference. Guaranteed. They're going to pass you, and you can say hi, and you're supposed to say hi to them. Like, you better, instead of standing at one of the tables with your coffee being like, all right, I'm going to psych myself up. I'm going to go over to that group, standing in a circle, and I'm going to introduce myself, or ask them to, open a space so I can stand with the circle and ask what they're talking about. I hate, I hate that. Yeah. I think most people, going to conferences hate that. I've just seen that so much. There's maybe 5 to 10% of the population that's super extroverted and will easily move into any circle. But most developers I know, that's right. Struggle with
totally
that.
Right. Yeah, I think because I think probably that extroverted type. I make it my not duty, that's the wrong word. I make a point of going up to people that I go, okay, that person doesn't look like they're talking to anyone. I'm going to go and talk to them.
Yeah.
And you get the most interesting conversations.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I really do believe I really want people that want to be in the Ruby community to feel like they belong, because there's so many interesting people. Recently, I was thinking about like one of the things that I love particularly about conferences and about this community is I feel like the world is a beautiful place, but a lot of times, like if you want to like observe beauty, you need a frame around it. You need to like be able to go in a museum and just see like one frame. And I feel like for me, the Ruby community is like one frame where I can see a lot. It's not so big that I'm just overwhelmed by the entire world, but I can see, lots of different people, and sort of see the uniqueness and perspectives and variety and the richness of that by looking sort of in this frame. And there's something about that that's like, I really enjoy, just to like observe the richness of that. And that, I think you can get that other places, but it's easier when it's small. It's harder to do with the entire world because you can't really take it in. But in this space, it's small enough that you can kind of take it in. Like you spend a few years here, you can take it in. And I just think that is really special. It's really, it really enriches my life.
Yeah. Was that your thinking when you decided to start your own series of conferences?
I think it was going to several conferences and having an amazing time. Many of them it was the first time that conference had ever happened, and thinking, oh, I want to do this for other people. Like the feeling that I finally belonged and fit, and that I'd found my group, my tribe. I want to do this for other people. Like, how hard would that be? Could I pull this off? Could I do this? Like, and sort of like thinking like, okay, there's this one that was new. This one, it was like, okay, Rails, SAS, LA, Andrew Culver's conference. There was Sin City Ruby with Jason Sweat. There was it was RubyConf Mini that year. There was a mini conference in Providence, Rhode Island. All of those were like brand new or basically new, never been done conferences before. And so seeing people come up kind of from scratch and then all the sort of personal decisions that they made around those things, it was like, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if I could do that. Why couldn't I do that? And then I just like put something out on Twitter, like, what if I did a, conference in Asheville, North Carolina, which is, I love this town. It's my favorite mountain town. Yeah. And people were like, do it. I'm the kind of person like, if I get egged on enough, I'm probably I'm going to go for it. So just waiting for people to tell me, like,
do it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
And was it the amount of work you expected, like, or was it far more?
So this was back in 2023 when I first did it, and I think it was probably I don't know that I was prepared for the full level of stress, but I knew it was going to be a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I think it was 250 hours of time. I time track everything as a consultant freelancer. Yeah. So I knew it was going to be a lot of work. It definitely was. It was also very stressful. Especially the first time. For me, it's like, I like to be able to anticipate all of the needs, requests, problems that are going to come my way ahead of time. Normally my client engagements, it's one person and maybe the customers, so I can sort of think in that one area. With conferences, it's attendees, speakers, vendors, sponsors, the venue. So you're just like, it's a bunch of things, and they could all, this one could cause a problem with this one. And you got to look at all these different angles and think of your messaging and your planning and your communications and logistics from all these different angles. And so it was really overwhelming, but it was fun to, pull off and then see people have a really good time, and see people really enjoy themselves and know that was exactly what you wanted to have happen. And then I did a second time around with my co-organizers this year. It was the second time that I'd been a part of it. I stepped back the second year, and I knew more what to expect this time. Ended up being more work because
Why? Because it was bigger?
Have to. No, it was about the same size, but for me, it's hard to just do the same thing over again. I feel like I have to raise the bar on myself on quality or like, trying something new. So it was more time. I was like 300 hours. But I was less stressed. I enjoyed it more. I was like, there were maybe fewer hiccups. There's always going to be some small details that don't go your way or whatever. And that's kind of the nature of live events, I think. But I was able to handle the stress level better this time, that was one of my goals, was like, okay, I want to do this again. I want to be able to do it without freaking out so much. So I was able to do that this time, and that was good.
I just think it's extraordinary. Anybody that has the gumption to put on an event like that, like, it's an extraordinary thing. And most people don't realize, like, you quote numbers like 250 and 300 hours to get these things pulled together. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was tough. At the end there, I was like, working Saturday and Sunday, it's like basically didn't take a break, between my client work and playing the conference. Like, I was basically working every day, which is not great. That was not like, try not to do that. I was definitely hitting the end, but yeah, it was like, it's super rewarding and very fulfilling to create that environment for other people and to sort of offer it as like it's not like like a thing I can do every year, like perpetually. I think some people can do that, and but for me, like, when I can do it and know that it's not going to kill me, like, it's very rewarding and very satisfying. And maybe is a little bit of giving back to the community that's given me so much. That's kind of what I hope.
Just changing it up a little bit. I just want to touch a little bit on the future of development itself, and not to get too philosophical about it. And we talked earlier about how do we encourage new developers? How do we get new people into the ecosystem? Where does that leave frameworks like Rails? I mean, obviously the Rails Foundation is putting a lot of work and energy into moving Rails into this new area. The Ruby Central is doing the same. What's your opinion, or how do we do this?
It's so hard for me to guess. I wish I knew what was going. I wish I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like everybody does, but
Is Rails more valuable or less in this age?
I guess I could see it either way. I mean, some people would say like, well, like the framework that, chooses convention over configuration is going to win out in LLMs all the time because, they'll just go with, the conventions. And so it's going to help, the framework that was set up to deliver rapid, application development is going to do better in this age, like where speed is, seems to be more
token
important
use.
than ever has. The Ruby language is optimized for token use. So I hear all of those arguments. Yeah, they kind of make sense to me. But then the other side of that is, like that no LLM is going to pick Rails out of the box when you say build me a web application. So there's that weighing on the other side. If I could wave a magic wand and make it so that everyone sitting down today is like, build me a web application. If we could just get like 25%, 50% that were Rails that just started, if that one, that first turn in the prompt, was Rails new. That would mean like in 5 years, there's going to be a bunch of apps out there that wouldn't have existed in our ecosystem otherwise. And a bunch of people that are Rails developers potentially, but certainly Rails apps that maybe are, maybe they blow up and a bunch of people start working for them. Maybe those people that started that way come to love Rails themselves and start coming to the conferences. And like, I would love to see that. I don't know how to make that happen. So I guess I could see this going so many different ways, and I just don't know. Yeah. I think we're still a pretty enthusiastic bunch, even if we're not that big. But how do we help people starting new web application projects today start with Rails? I don't know. I don't know how to do that. Because so many of them are just going straight to LLMs, I think, to start. So I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, it is a difficult question. It's one that I'm constantly asking now because I'm searching for the answer, and perhaps to some degree trying to encourage other people to think about the answer as well. Not that everybody needs to, but you're right. It's we feel like a small group, even though there's massive corporations using Rails every day, but they don't always feel like part of the community.
Yeah. I guess I feel like they are. Many of them are. Like, it definitely.
Many of them are. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But certainly when I'm talking to people that are trying to vibe code for the first time, or people that are outside of tech, or maybe have some idea of a programming language, Ruby is not one that they've heard of before. And Rails might not be a thing that they've heard of, even if they've heard of Shopify or GitHub or something like that.
Yeah.
It's usually like, that's usually what I'm saying. Like, if you heard of these, like, okay. I kind of wish that, I don't know if this would work, but I thought recently, like, it'd be fun if somebody built a site that was like aimed toward vibe coders, to tell them, like, just like, start your prompt this way. And like, when you build this way, you start your project this way, you're making a choice that to you don't even care about. You've never even heard of any of these things. So you're just going to be picking something, right? It's going to be random. If you go this route and just pick this starting, phrase when you prompt that first prompt, then what you end up with is an ecosystem that we have, an ecosystem around deployments. We've got like a lot of tooling and blog posts around that, around operations. There's a whole constellation of agencies and consultants and freelancers and, service, retainer services. If this thing goes big, there are people that know, they're going to know how to handle your, like tuning your Postgres for your Rails app. There are people that are going to know how to handle, debugging like performance issues. There are going to be people that know how to come in and add features or re-architect features that, maybe Claude got wrong. And it's all here in this ecosystem. And, like, here's the directory of all those people that can help along the way.
Right.
You just pick this path. Whereas you go somewhere else, you might not know where to go. I wish that our answer could be like, you come here, you make that one, change to your prompt. You don't even care in the beginning, but if things go well, you're going to need more than just agents. You're going to need people to help you, and there is a whole cohesive community here that can cover a lot of the needs that you'll have, whether you're hiring, whether you're, just need consulting or whatever.
There's a bunch of decisions that get made before an application is, before you run one line of code. You make these decisions like, what percentage of test coverage am I going to target? What database am I going to use? What gems should I use? These decisions get made in advance. And if you're using an LLM, you might not make those decisions. You just say, go and build me it. And then you find that the test coverage isn't there, like maybe no tests at all.
Right.
And so, like these are the sorts of things I guess you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. It almost makes me want to like start AI enthusiast clubs as a way, as like a a target audience for people coming into Rails. If we can get them to build things and then just tell them the secret words, they'll be building Rails applications and end up being Ruby developers, in the future.
There's something I discovered years ago, and I'll bring up Reinteractive again. At Reinteractive, we used to run these one or two night seminars where we'd get people started on Rails. Like it was, get 20 people in a room and do a hello world and the deploy on Heroku. That's cool. And so they had an application ready. And lots of people got their start in the industry because of that. So that today isn't going to work quite as well. But what we were going to replace it with was a workshop, an AI type workshop of 2 days in a room and all of those things that you're talking about. Didn't get it off the ground in the end, but I did discover in putting it together, lots of people were interested in how do I get into this new world of AI coding?
Yeah.
That'd be a good group to start with because you could give them all these tools. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I think a missing piece is something as easy as the Heroku free tier. Heroku free tier was a massive unlock in that era. It really was. Because getting things to production makes them real. And it's not a trivial last bit. It's like, it is the thing. Yeah. Once you have something in production and when it's free, and obviously Heroku must have taken a hit for years for that. It's understandable they would take that away. But I think it had a very outsized impact on people coming into Rails, and we don't have an equivalent now. But whatever that was. You
know what the problem was for them was it was being abused by crypto miners.
Yeah. Totally sucks. Yeah.
I don't know the solution to that, and I certainly had many conversations. But you're right; it was such a great thing to have that available. Yeah.
I've wondered if there's. Yeah. I wish the Rails Foundation had enough money to run something like that. Let's say the stack was really limited. Maybe it only works with the solid gems, and you don't get a background worker, you just get a web worker, and you can spin up a sub process for your background background jobs. And maybe it's only SQLite or something. I don't know. Right. If there was a way to do that so that anybody could sit down and do a hello world Rails app, but have it in production that day, I think that would actually, rather than, now you got to pick, Heroku used to be the thing that everyone liked. Now most people are not so sure. So you could go to Railway, or you could go, to Fly, or, Render. You got to pick, you could do any of them. And now that's a terrible thing for the beginner. That's I just thought it was going to be easy to build an app.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll go to Lovable, or I'll go do this other thing, right? Because they're going to make all the decisions for me. And then I'll have something done today. I feel like we need an answer to that. Maybe that's, maybe that's the thing. If we don't have an answer to that, I don't know where we go.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Now we just got to find someone to sponsor that, to put some cash up to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not out of the question,
taking advantage of crypto miners or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it seems like it could be possible. I don't know.
There'll be a way to do it. It's just, it'll take some verification of the person or something. I was going to say maybe you could do it based on some history in GitHub, but that won't work because you're trying to get new people in.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. There are challenges. I do think if they can go somewhere else and get a web app online in a day, and we don't have an answer to that, I don't know if we're going to keep attracting new people.
Right. Yeah. Because then if you did that, you could also provide at the same time those resources that you were talking, like an MD file of here's your starting prompt. Yeah. You could package that into it. Yeah. Something to think about. Someone listening to this is going to go, I can do this.
Hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I'll be here for it. I want to point people to, I wish there's so many people, you run into who are just like vibe coding stuff right now, and they're doing it on Lovable, and I don't have another thing to tell them. I don't have a thing to be like, well, why'd you pick JavaScript and, you know, Supabase or whatever? Like, I don't have another thing to tell them to get them to become Ruby and Rails users.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we're onto something. All right. Okay. Before we get into any other big ideas that we have to put some work into, let's wrap this up. A couple of things to ask. I think we've talked enough about the future. Let's talk a little bit about the present. You where are you at in the cycle of the next conference, the next Blue Ridge Ruby? Where are you up to?
So we wrapped up in this is our third conference here in May. I told the team that I probably will not be able to do next year. So we're going to meet later this summer to see if there's somebody else who would kind of take the lead. It's just such a heavy lift. And usually I think there needs to be kind of one person that is running point on a conference, maybe at a certain scale or in a different way of distributing responsibilities. It can work differently. But for me, like, it seems like you kind of need, there's so many interdependent, intertwining things, like knowing things about all the things about the venue, plus the caterer, plus like, scheduling and, the attendees need to know this thing. There's so many things that kind of go through one person. So usually you need one person that kind of has the bird's eye view of the entire thing.
Yeah, right.
And then you can kind of delegate from there. And
but they also have to represent it. So like they're the contact point for sponsors and for...
Yeah, that's another thing. Yes. The representation and who plays host is a big thing, because when sponsors work with you, they're putting their trust in a person, not in a vague, like, nonprofit. It's like they're trusting you. They need to look you in the eye and say, like, and know, like, I'm going to deliver these things for you. Like, I'm putting myself on the line. So you kind of need someone that can do that. And you could have an MC that's different. And I think that could work. So we talked about that, and that might happen. But as of yet, no one's like stepped up to say, hey, I want to run it. So we're going to see. I tell everyone that for me, every conference is a one-off. There's no guarantee. It's not like something can just run perpetually. I have to decide, like, am I up for this, this time? And knowing where I'm at right now, I can't say yes to next year. But I'd love to attend. I'd love to be involved, and I would love someone else to take it and run with it.
Would you consider mentoring somebody, like to say, here's some instructions, go and do this next?
Oh, yes. No, I told them, like, if someone else wants to take the lead, and then I'll just be like the kind of brain dump for them, or you just come to me and I will tell you what to, like, I can tell you the things, like, I would do this, this, and this, make this choice, not that one, do this with the event, the event space. I can do that, but there's so much legwork that goes, so many details. It feels like you're just drowning in details. Like I didn't realize that I'd become a detail person, a detail oriented person. I always thought, I'm big picture, I'm not a detail person. And then I think software development like taught me details. By the time I did a conference, it was just like drowning in details and feeling like, oh my gosh, this is like a level of detail I didn't even think, about. But I think software developers can do it. Like it is like you're managing complexity. You're managing all this complexity, and it's just a different kind. And once you like figure out the shape of it, you can kind of use the same skills to manage that complexity. And if you're a detail-oriented person, then in your coding, I think you can do it in events too. But it takes a lot of work, just like anything else that you want it to be good.
But the reward is extraordinary.
It is. It really is. Yeah. Seeing a room full of people that have become friends or have had an experience that, that, I don't know about you, but like there are conferences like with specific memories locked in my brain, from 3 years ago, of special moments that I had and things that I like cherish, like being able to do that for other people is so rewarding.
Absolutely. Yes. There's people that you meet at conferences that you will talk to over the years, over and over again. Yeah, yeah. Like, half the guests I have on this podcast.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, one last thing then. You also run a podcast. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that and how we can find it.
So the podcast is Indie Rails. That's me and my friend Jess Brown. Started that in 2023. Also, at the same time, I was doing Blue Ridge for the first time. So 2023 was kind of a big year for me. Yeah. We have been on a bit of a break. We're about to come back. In the spring before Blue Ridge, I was just so busy. I was like, hey, I can't. Like, something's got to drop. I think it's going to be the podcast. So that was unfortunate, but we're also like in this space where, like starting in 2023, we're barely talking about AI. And now it feels like every episode is about AI. And it's like, is that what we are now? Or is every podcast now an AI podcast? And so I think we're like figuring that out. Like, we obviously have to talk about this and want to a degree, but we don't want everything to be about that. Like, a lot of our podcast has been the intersection of independent business and Rails. So we're talking to, agency owners and people building SaaS products and consultants. And we still want to do that and talk about where people are at, which often is like all of us are grappling with this right now.
Yeah. But
we also want to hear their stories of like how they got started. I'm especially interested in people that are building new businesses right now. Like, what are people building either agencies or SaaS products? Who are they right now? I don't know of that many right this second that are new. So I'm like anxious to see that, and like to have those conversations and hear what people are doing that's new in this, in the current landscape and how that works.
Yeah.
So we'll be back, getting back started here this month here.
Awesome.
And we'll be back at it. So I have a whole list of people I want to be talking to soon. So,
right.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Last question is this. Is there anything in this podcast that you wanted to say? Any question that I should have asked you? Anything else to go over?
Anything? It was funny that I had mentioned that I was had expertise in Hotwire. I don't know if that's because you saw that I was speaking at Rails World. That was a little bit of a surprise that I threw that out there, and it was a surprise that I got that talk accepted. I guess maybe I hadn't thought that I had. I mean, it's definitely something I've spent a lot of time on the past few years. Didn't necessarily think I was known for anything about that. So but that's cool.
Interesting. But who is the expert on it though? Like, if it's not you, then who?
Okay. So people that I would say have more Hotwire expertise would be Julian Rubish, Pascal Laliberte, and I'm trying to think of who else is speaking, talks about this a lot. There've been some really good things on the Thoughtbot blog. So there are a handful of other people I would look at. Raden Skoric, Master Hotwire. There are a few other people out there, and even Chris Oliver. He did a whole video course on Hotwire. So there are other people. Yeah. I feel I'm probably C-list or something, if anything. But here I am. So I guess this is what I'm doing now. So it's actually been fun. I like 2 weeks into kind of after realizing they accepted it. Okay, time to get this thing sharpened up.
I have to figure out what it is.
Well, no, I have tons of notes. I've been taking notes on Hotwire stuff for 3 or 4 years. I don't know about you, but in my programming, projects and my client projects, I just throw tons and tons of notes in my note-taking app around challenges that I have, things that I think are good patterns, all kinds of stuff. So, and I've had this idea for a practical Hotwire course or talk. Actually, I've thought about courses as well, but who's buying educational courses these days? I don't know. But talks
That's another subject to discuss with Chris.
I know,
actually.
Yeah. So I've had this idea for a while. Now it's do I need to go back over this with a fine-tooth comb because I have some very particular views on Hotwire, like how I like to use it, that aren't maybe like the standard things. So I'm trying to figure out, like, trying to back everything up, like with really like grounded thinking, reasoning, and examples, and then showing like the things I've seen. A lot of my opinions come out of working in various code bases and seeing things that either patterns I don't like with Hotwire, things that I think are difficult to manage, or surprises. So my talk is going to be kind of like a walk through a variety of pitfalls I've seen. And then, like, if you can avoid these things, do some things this way, you can really have a nice, like simple approach to, I mean, nothing's ever simple, but a clean, somewhat magical, experience on the front end that I think is manageable for small teams and can be a nice answer. So.
Yeah. Look, the reason I asked you about that was because I thought it was a good launch point into discussing how do we attack new developers and how do we bring technology to them that isn't necessarily in the larger domain.
Yeah.
It's a point to just, it's something of interest to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that as a like way in. And it could be. I think maybe one of the issues there is that Hotwire, the brand, is sort of, what would you say, frameworkless? Like, it's sort of like, it's not Rails. It could be used with Rails. It could be used with something else. But on its own, like, it's sort of standalone. But then there's nobody else using it other than Rails in a significant way that I know of. And you still need, it relies so much on the back end. You need a back end answer. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's a nice set of tools, and I'm hopeful. I don't know what I think front end always has naturally more volatility to it than back end because the browser is such a changing landscape. Yeah. Necessarily, it's a changing landscape. So people complain about, it's JavaScript. Well, I actually don't think it's just JavaScript's fault. Like JavaScript has cleaned up to be a pretty nice language, I think. But the browser is just always changing, and like we're staying ahead of, like things that we want that end up becoming native. For how long do we want like a calendar, like a date picker? Finally we have a native one, and now like maybe it's like not the prettiest, but it is a native one that you can work out of the box with every browser. For years it was like you got to use this jQuery one or whatever, things like that. So I think there's naturally a lot of volatility there. So I don't know what I think the front end will continue to change, and even what Hotwire is today, I wonder if that will change. I suspect there are things there that will change in the future.
It's an evolution.
Yeah, naturally, and not as a fault to the tooling, but as just like a natural extension of what happens with browsers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I think that's all for today.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Errol. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think we have. We've discussed a lot. As always, I could go on for hours, but we won't. Thank you very much for talking with me today.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.